The highest pay.online is having a special Black Friday sale. This Black Friday sale will give you 40% off on any of the 3 option trading courses on our site. Use the code NOV40 to access the 40% off sale. This sale will end on November 30th. If you've ever thought about moving forward with any of our options training, this is going to be the best opportunity that you've seen all year. See you on the inside. How are you doing? My name is David W. Williams, and I'm here with a really special guest with a really, really important topic. And what we're going to talk about is dating, men, budgeting, and how do you build wealth and date at the same time as a man in our society. And I got a really special guest. She's been on here before. I'm really happy to connect with her again because she's very, very insightful. She's very experienced in what she's doing, and she's been able to produce a lot of success in a lot of people's lives. I'm here with Tasha from Godesté, and Tasha is a holistic wealth builder. Tasha, how are you doing today?
I am excellent. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation today. I know it's a hot button topic.
I appreciate you coming through. So really quickly, before we get into it, I know that you have a special offer for our guest, and I wanted to ask you what that offer is, and can you go into it a little bit?
Yeah, so for those of you who are in a space in your life where you are finally ready to take control of your finances in a real way, I am here to help. The reason that I call myself a holistic wealth builder is because I understand that as we're building wealth, it requires us as a whole person, right? Our emotions, our habits, our lifestyle, the way that our brains operate, all of that comes to the table. So with my offer for this season, I have out the budget bundle. It's our free budget bundle specifically for the fall season. And it has 3 components that I'm really excited about. Number 1, we're going to start with money mindset. That's always the foundation, getting you grounded in the space to change, transform, do something different. Number 2, we get right into the budget. It's our budget template where you're going to outline your expenses, your bills and debt. And then finally, we're getting into my favorite part. This is the most overlooked part of budgeting. And this is your day planner. Budgeting is not about the numbers. It's literally about what is happening in your day-to-day life. When you get your day-to-day life under control, that's when you can start to bring your budget under control. You cannot have one without the other. So all of this together is our budget bundle. It is a free resource that I have designed to help you move the needle in your finances when you're ready. So if that sounds something that is that you might be interested in, then Dave will have the information for that.
Okay, quick. And so really quickly, they can just access that information by going to like a URL or a link.
Yeah, you can get it if you go to my Instagram or to my Twitter page. It'll be inside the link there.
Okay, definitely. We'll provide that link in the description, but I want to make sure people get pointed towards that. I was listening to a YouTuber and they make a lot of noise and they have a lot of traction, a lot of long track record in like the life coach relationship space, right? Mm-hmm. And their audience is primarily women.
Okay.
And so they built a lot of credibility in that space by, I guess, teaching women how men should treat them, right? And they were explaining to women that if a man is serious and he has a lot of intent about dating you, he should be willing to take you out every week. But I was asking because if you really look at some of the income or the salary data for men inside the United States, we know a large amount of our population probably doesn't bring in $50K a year.
Okay.
So then if I'm a man and I'm trying to show a woman that I have intent and I'm serious about dating her, what are going to be some of the challenges around paying for dates and some of the expenses around paying for dates week in and week out, which is going to be 52 weeks out of the year, if I'm expected to show, well, the only way I'm serious is if I'm taking her out every week. And then what are going to be some of the expectations around that? Does this woman or does a person I'm looking to date, does she expect high-end dates? Or can we maybe do park dates or maybe museum dates? And so what I want to really ask you is could you help us create some type of structure around that? Because I know that you work in the wealth building space. So what we're looking at as men is that how can we be expected to carry all these costs and build wealth at the same time?
You know, most of the time in this generation, before we go out on a date with people, we're having those conversations in advance to get to know them just a little bit to determine, is this a date that I actually want to go on? And I would say in those beginning conversations, you want to be listening for what is actually important to that person. Now, dinner and a movie or just going out to a restaurant, that's like a standard cultural norm that you can get away with as effort. It's not necessarily that women think it's effort. It's just that this is a standard cultural norm, so I'm not going to hold it against you. You did, what's required. Okay, so that's fine. However, when you start getting to know somebody and you start listening to what they want, and I understand that there are certain conversations that are had on social media, but it can kind of be an echo chamber a lot of the time. And in my experience, it's not necessarily what's going on in real life. So for me, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, I'm going to be so excited when somebody did something that I said I wanted to do. Like, it might not be an expensive restaurant. It might just be a restaurant that I mentioned I wanted to go to. And then, you take me there. Or I might say, I love fall. And then, we take an hour drive that ends up at this like nice, cute little restaurant during fall. That to me is effort. That's showing that you're paying attention, that there's some intentionality there that has little to do with money.
Okay, but so let me ask you, and I appreciate your response. So let's say I am talking to a woman, I find out what she likes to do. So I'm gonna show effort by doing what she likes to do. Should I look at how that impacts my budget, or should I just not worry about it and just do it because that's what she likes to do?
That's a really great question. And again, I think what I honestly want to say, and I'm gonna just be honest, I feel like a lot of men come from a place of feeling antagonized because that question is just already on the defensive. You know what I mean? It's like, and I understand it because of this echo chamber of gender arguments, right? Like we're not even having conversations. It seems like we're having arguments that completely miss each other and completely speak past each other. And one of the things that I would say to men is that I believe as a man, it is your responsibility to set the tone for what you want your relationship to look like. And it is your responsibility to be responsible for that as you choose your partners. So if you are, in conversation with somebody and you see that they are extremely superficial and they're not willing to compromise, they don't care about the impact to you, that's probably not a person that you should pursue a relationship with. Now, when it comes to considering your finances, what I recommend, where I'm looking from is, where's your heart? Are you coming from a place of, I want to be able to do all of these things for this person, but this is what my budget is looking like right now, right? That is a whole different space than I'm not doing all that, right? If you come and you tell me, I know that this might be some of the things that you want to do, and I would love to be able to do those things for you. And I'm sure that's in our future, but right now, the budget is dictating that we do something more like this. And I posted actually today on Instagram about a romantic vacation that I recently took, and it was just like a $200 vacation. It's like a road trip to North Carolina, and that's like an hour and a half away, there for 2 nights and just really enjoying each other's company. It doesn't take, we could have went to Italy, but whether I was in Italy or whether I was in North Carolina, I was going to have a good time, So I say that to say, there's an element of thoughtfulness. There's an element of creativity. Is an element of, are you willing to dig deep and figure out what are the things that I can do for this person that would feel like $1 million, but won't cost $1 million?
Okay, so that makes sense. So and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing is that men should understand that the woman that they're choosing to pursue is not superficial and is not asking them to do things that would put them in a bad financial position before they start trying to really pursue seriously dating her.
I really would say you want to look for alignment, right?
Okay.
Like, you want to look for somebody who is financially aligned with what you want in your life, right? So you want to choose a partner who is thoughtful, who has good character, who is responsible, right? You want to make sure they're responsible with their money and that they're also going to be responsible with yours. Somebody who isn't going to be responsible with your money, to me, is a dangerous person, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And as long as you're not coming from a place of withholding, right? And people can feel that energy. A lot of times it's not necessarily the words, it's not necessarily the budget, it's the energy that is flowing underneath it, right? It's this protection where I feel like I need to protect myself from you, and you feel like you need to protect myself from me, and it's not conducive to healthy, whole, thriving relationships.
I agree with you. And just one thing I want to say, and this is something that's often not talked about, is that when we have these conversations, I don't think we really get into how much money people actually make and what their bills actually are. I think there's a misconception on the internet that everybody makes so much money, but the economic data doesn't really show us that. And I've also think that what we've done is shame people to be embarrassed about what they really actually make. So I think it comes across as I'm holding back because I can't really say I make $45,000 a year, but I still want to date, but I make $45,000 because if I'm a man and I say I make $45,000, now I'm a bum and I don't deserve to date because everybody's saying on the internet how easy it is to make six figures. So I think a lot of men are dealing with a lot of economic stress and they can't say what they're actually dealing with, but they're also being told that they're supposed to perform a certain way. So it creates the holding back, because I know it, you may have experienced it in business. How many people will not tell me they just don't have the money? They'll come up with another reason why they won't pursue a purchase, as opposed to just saying, I just don't have it right now. And maybe in 6 months I will, because my economic situation may be different. And so I think that's something that we're not really having, is really, and I'm talking about you personally, I'm just saying really laying out the data of what is the actual income level of people, and then what expectations are we putting on them based on their income level.
I mean, you really preaching right now, and I come at that from a few different angles. Number one, I think everybody is lying and living beyond their means, right? Like, you see, when you see all this flashy life, it's a good indication that people's bank accounts are on E. Okay, and we are wanting this image of the facades that we see on social media. And I think there is a subset, a really loud subset of people who think that that should be the norm and who are talking into that being the norm. And so I think the things that people are saying that they want, and I really think that it's impacting the younger generations to think that this is real and think that this is standard. And I think all the glitz and the glamour of what a date should look like, of what your apartment should look like, of all these things, I think is skewing our perspective. Now, that's on one hand, right? On the other hand, there is a place where I think men shouldn't date. And I think that women do men a disservice when they don't allow them to really come into the, I won't say fullness, because we're always growing and developing. It's not like you're just going to reach this one status where you're like, all right, I'm a man. But, there is this, the phase of where they're like, you know what? Now I'm ready to be a provider. Like, I know that I've got this for myself. I feel solid in who I am for myself. And now I feel like I can bring somebody else into that. And what I would say about that is every person has to decide that number for themselves, and how they feel on the inside is going to tell them a lot about whether or not that number is good enough for them. Men especially, I have been in periods, where I've been with men who they had a lot of money and then they lost their job. And you can see the unsettledness within them. All of a sudden, they're like, I'm sorry. I just don't have time for you right now. I have to focus on this. And it's like, I get that. So I would say don't be influenced by what everybody else is saying and by what everybody else is doing. And don't even be influenced by me. I think ultimately what my recommendation for men is not to listen to what I say they should or shouldn't do, but to really see like what is resonating with them in terms of the direction that they want for their lives. And I think, we hear women saying that we want men to have money, but the thing that I don't think we talk about enough is that the men want money too, right? The men want to have money too. And instead of it being this critical conversation, it really could just be a conversation about development, because I know that there are some things that I had to develop in myself before I was ready to be in relationships. And I think we should probably make that more standard. Everybody don't need to be just jumping into relationships before they're ready.
So now here's some of the questions that I want to kind of ask you that came from my audience, which is primarily men. And one of the biggest questions was that as a man is dating, should he have a set aside in his budget for dating, or should he just kind of date as it comes up?
I love that because I'm big on men investing in women, but I'm also big on budgeting. So having a boundary, right? I remember when I created my boyfriend's budget. I created his budget for him. I didn't create his budget so he could start saying no to me. And then he started saying no to me. I was like, okay, like, that's not what I expected. He's like, it's not in the budget. And I'm the one who created the budget. So I knew that it wasn't in the budget. And I was okay with that. But, you know, having that boundary, and sometimes as women, and I'll speak for me, I can't speak for all women, but we don't always like the boundary with our men, right? It's like, if you love me, why do you have a boundary with me? Right? You should be just limitless and boundless. So as a man, I think it is really important to have a boundary. And I think the make or break factor is, how do you describe it? Like, you got to talk nice to me. Don't be coming to me talking about, we're not doing this and da, 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 da. Like, you know, I'm a woman. I'm gonna want you to just be soft with me. So that might look like, babe, it's not in the budget this month, but we can look at what that could look like for next month. Or, you know, this is what our budget is looking like right now, and, you know, these are the things that we can work on, right, as a team, to figure out, how do we increase this income, or how do we reduce our expenses. And if the man is the primary breadwinner, then looking at, okay, what are the skills I need to get to the income. And of course, you know, I'm getting into like committed territory now. What is the income that I need, that I want to have to support my household? And how do we get me there as a unit?
Okay, but so let me ask you a really quick question. And I'm not specific talking to your relationship, but let's just say we have a relationship to where I'm a man, I have a budget, and I explain to the woman that I'm dating that some of the experiences that she may desire don't necessarily fit in the budget. Should I be looking to bring in more money just to go on those higher level experiences? Or should we try to get to an understanding that it's just not there right now? Like, what type of stress should I be putting on myself just to provide those experiences for her, even when at this current time they don't fit in the budget?
So that's why I led with, people are going to do what they want to do. And if somebody, like, if you are a man, I believe, and you love this person, you might not be able to provide those types of experiences all year long. And that's reasonable. But we got birthdays, we got Valentine's Day. Like, there should be a time where you're able to have that experience. And then there should be appreciation for that experience. But what it actually sounds like to me, and what you said, is a mismatch. Right? It sounds like a mismatch. Now, what I will first do is see, because a lot of times people are unaligned with themselves. They're asking for experiences that they've seen on social media. So the first thing, if I'm in a relationship with somebody and we seem like we're not aligned, I would start to ask them questions about, what are some things that you love to do that are free? This is an exercise that I do with my clients. What is something that you love to do that costs nothing at all? What are some things that you love to do that cost less than $100? And what are the like big things that you like really want to do that might be more expensive? All right. And just see and get them talking about what makes them happy. See where they light up. All right. I love rain. I love being in the rain. If we could take a drive in the rain, I'm going to light up. All right. If we could go visit my family in Chicago, I'm excited. Right. It doesn't take a whole, like, there's some more. I love Hawaii. I definitely want to go visit Africa. You know, I want a new car. Like, there are some things, some expensive things that I want, and there are some less expensive things I want too. So first I will begin to see, like, how can we come into alignment, and see if when we do come into alignment with ourselves, are we more on a level playing field? And if not, then it just might be a mismatch, because I don't think it works if you feel stressed out trying to provide for the desires of somebody else. I think that leads to resentment.
So another question that my audience had is that, is there a way that men can learn to stretch their dollar when it comes to dating? Like, is there a way for they say, hey, you know what? I have X amount of dollars, but is there a way to make the money that I have look bigger when I'm out here dating?
Look bigger. Say more about that. What you mean by that?
So what I mean is that, let's say I have X amount to date with. Is there something that I can do to try to make maybe the experience look bigger than what it is, kind of maybe just based on what I currently have?
You know, I've never thought about that, but the thing that came to mind for me immediately is have your go-to spots, right?
Okay.
Have your happy hour spots that you know about, right? Have your lunch spots, your brunch spots that you know are going to fit within your budget.
Okay.
And I would say the listening aspect, like listening to what somebody wants. I know, you know, people talk about picnic dates, right? But if you're going on a picnic date because you don't want to spend money on me, that's one thing. But if you're going on a picnic date because you know that the weather is going to be beautiful and you know that I'm the type of person who loves being outdoors, that's a whole different situation. Right? Or taking somebody on a beer crawl, right? It don't take a lot of money to do that, but you've hit multiple spots in one night, created an experience. So a lot of times I think it creates creativity. It's not, you can't fake it, you know, like you gonna have to put some energy in, some effort in, and it's gonna be felt most of the time.
Another question we had is that, should the socioeconomic class of the person we're asking out be taken into account when setting a dating budget?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because, but I don't think it's the only thing that should be taken into account. You want to get a sense for who people are, and their socioeconomic status is one part of that. And if that part of that means that they're just naturally put off by certain experiences, and those are the types of experiences that you're looking to provide, then it's not going to be a match. You know, I grew up in, I told you, like a poor neighborhood, but I went to one of the top colleges in the country. So what I noticed right away, the standard operating procedure for living was different for a lot of my college peers than it was for me. Things that I was used to, they weren't used to, and things that they were used to, I wasn't used to. And so it was no good, bad, right, or wrong. We just came from different worlds, and it was evident. And me being there, I began to acclimate into that world. But it was because it was a world beyond the one that I had experienced. So nobody's going to want to retract and go into, you know, a lower socioeconomic world. That's not the direction that we want to be moving in. And so I think it doesn't necessarily have to be a limiting factor, because in my mind, I'm not thinking that there's a single man in the world who wants to limit his wealth potential, who wants to limit the income that he's able to make. And so in that case, I wouldn't lead with potential. I would lead with results. Like, this is the person that I am, and this is what I've been able to do. And this is the person that I want to become. And this is what I'm going to become. And in the meantime, this is what I'm providing. And if you're providing effort, if you're providing experiences, if you're providing intention and time, that is a very valuable currency for a lot of women who, they may have had people who had money before, but they didn't have all those other things. So it is a factor, but it's not the only factor.
Now, here's something that audience really spoke about, especially a lot of men. And they were explaining that when looking to date, and not talking about a committed relationship, just dating to try to get to know people, see what they're about, they spoke to not necessarily being so worried about what the date wants to do in a situation where you take that person out and they don't enjoy themselves. The date is not a bomb because you did something you enjoyed to do. So what you're kind of, and I'm saying, I don't want to paraphrase it, I want to paraphrase it. What you're explaining is that the man should do a lot of investigation and a lot of understanding of what that other person desires to do. And then you should use that information to frame the date. Or should the man just decide, this is what I enjoy doing, and does this other person want to accompany me on the date?
I would never recommend that.
Okay.
If you're serious about finding a partner.
Okay.
Right? If you're not trying to find a partner, you're just trying to have a good time, then you can have a good time. And I wouldn't personally consider that dating. Okay. In the sense that I started the conversation with, you know. Okay. I would never recommend that, because as a woman who I care about money, but I really care about character and intention and all those other things more. And there's nothing more off-putting than somebody who hasn't considered what I want to do. I'm instantly like, because I never have to be there. I don't have to be there. I have other things that I could be doing. And so, I work a lot. I'm always working. And it's like, if I pull my time, no matter who I'm spending time with, if I'm going to come and spend my time and energy with you, at least consider me. And in dating, I think that there is a time where the women are going to be considering the men. There's definitely going to be that time. I know we haven't talked about a lot, and I appreciate that we haven't really got into, well, what are the women doing? There's going to be a time where and it's always there for women, at least the ones in my circle. But in terms of what should the men do in this phase? I highly recommend that you consider what the other person wants. However, I really do think there's nothing wrong with a standard dinner date. Women love food. I love food. It don't have to be expensive. It just has to be thoughtful and good. If a lot of the dates that I've gone on, now I'm very unexperienced when it comes to dating, but the dates that I have gone on, I have had somebody say, do you want to go on a coffee date? And I don't, because I'm working. I'd rather just finish working versus go on a coffee date. Now, if you put dinner in the mix, I love food. Now I'm happy to come and get to know you and see where this goes. And in those instances where we go get food, I might spend $15 on a meal. However, they picked a good spot. The food was delicious. It cost $15, didn't order no drinks that time. So at most, I'm like a $25, $30 date, on a first date type of situation. So it goes back to having your spots, that you can afford. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
The highest paid online is having a special Black Friday sale. This Black Friday sale will give you 40% off on any of the 3 option trading courses on our site. Use the code NOV40 to access the 40% off sale. This sale will end on November 30th. If you've ever thought about moving forward with any of our options training, this is going to be the best opportunity that you've seen all year. See you on the inside. Okay, so some men do like to do coffee dates because we're talking about initial dating. So we're not talking about people in a committed relationship and a serious relationship. We're talking about initially dating, but you are looking for somebody that you would like to get serious with, but you don't really know them yet in person, face to face, right? And many men do like the coffee date because it's relatively easy to set up and it's relatively inexpensive. Mm-hmm. So now we're going back to the schedule of 4 dates a month. So if every date is $60 plus gas every week, right? We're talking about 6 times 4 is what, $240 minus the gas. We're talking about a few $1,000s a year. And we're talking about men that are making around 50 to 60 grand a year. So they have to budget those costs into their lifestyle, because a coffee date will be unacceptable even for a person that you don't really know yet in person. You just maybe know them on the phone. So that's kind of where men are coming from, is that how are they expected to kind of absorb these costs? Or if they can't absorb the cost, then that just means they shouldn't date at all?
Maybe. So to me, a $300 a month is a reasonable amount to spend if you want to go on 1 date a week. Like if you want to go on a date a week, you got it. $300 sounds reasonable to me. If you don't want to spend that much money, maybe go on a date every other week.
Okay.
And so it comes back to if you're not sure if you really want to take me out, I'm okay with that. Don't ask me out. It's not a problem that you haven't really gotten to the point where you want to go to dinner with me or anybody else. Then don't ask me out.
But is the issue the person, or is the issue the finances? So I think
it's neither for me. The issue is my time, right? So and when you're talking to, and some women are okay with coffee dates, and I don't think it has anything to do with what our values and our morals are. I think it has to do with the type of women that we are. I'm not a woman who out here, I've never been the type of person who's like, I need a man, I need to date, so my desire is a little on the lower end, right? Mm-hmm. So because of that, I'm good. Like I'm okay. I'm not about to get into my car and drive 30 minutes in Atlanta traffic to have coffee. It is never happening. I'm not that interested. I'm not that invested. But I do like food. And I've been working all day. I haven't even eaten a lot of the time. So now I haven't worked all day. I know I need to eat, but I don't feel like it. You really are like, now is valuable for my time. Now I'm gonna get in my car and I'm gonna drive 30 minutes in Atlanta traffic, and I'm gonna put all of my energy into getting to know who you are as a person. And then, we'll see like what the vibe is. And it might cost you $30. So I don't think, for me, I don't think that coffee dates are unacceptable across the board.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not something that's going to get me out of my house and into my car. And for a lot of busy women, a lot of women who are making a lot of money, they're really not gonna be. There's no pool there, Now, if I knew the person, it's like we've only talked on the phone a few times. I don't know you enough for your personality to be the pool. I don't know you enough yet. But the food be getting me out the house, and it's not to say that I'm trying to use somebody for food, because I really could just order me something or something like that. But it's like, if you are wanting to spend time with me, that's a really enticing offer. Now I get to know you, and I get to do something that I should have done already. Like, it's a win-win for me. So that's how I look at it.
I appreciate you saying that, because I think it's really important, and we're going to kind of roll into the next question, is that expectations are set. And I think the mistake that a lot of men make is they don't set expectations initially, because they want to keep the situation going, but they may not be able to do what the other person desires. So if a person says, hey, you know what, the only way I date is if I can go to a dinner date. I don't do coffee dates. I don't do, lower tier experiences. I just don't do it. I think men have to get comfortable with realizing that that's just not the person for them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of men, again, we've been conditioned to not say that we don't have it, or we're not maybe comfortable spending that money at that particular time, maybe because of maybe what's going on in our life. So we will go along with stuff knowing that we can't maintain the situation.
I really want to back up for a second, though, because if you don't want to go on a coffee date, I mean, if as a man, I'm trying to figure out like if the only dates that you can go on are coffee dates, I would question your ability to date.
Yes, ma'am, but it's not. It wouldn't.
Go ahead.
It wouldn't be the only date. It would be initially when we're first starting out the date, to try to figure out whether or not it makes sense to continue to go down the road. Because talking to somebody on the phone is one thing.
I could see that. Because I haven't dated a lot, it's like I hear you saying 4 dates a month, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That sounds like a lot to me. Why would anybody go on 4 dates a month? It's like men hunting, and it's like, are you really out there trying to find a life partner, or are you out there trying to go on as many dates as you can go on? What are we trying to do?
No, but we were saying that this is what this relationship life coach was telling women, that if a man is interested in pursuing you, he should be willing to take you on 4 dates a month. And so the question we were asking is that what would those dates look like from a cost standpoint? Because again, we know how much men make.
Oh, I thought you were saying that men go on 4 dates.
No. I'm saying taking one person and dating him 4 times a month. And that's, if he's not doing that, he's not serious about dating you.
Right. So that's different, because she is speaking to like, okay, now he's courting you. Like, okay, you guys have decided that you might want to move forward. Now you're having a date with this same person month after month. I mean, week after week.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah. Let me think about that for a second.
Because my question would be is based on, so we're past the coffee date stage now.
Right.
We're going into more expensive dates. So let's say the average date costs $200. So let me give you an example. I went and had lunch with somebody, just do some networking out here in Atlanta. Had lunch at a place on Sunday, brunch real big in Atlanta. It was almost $100. 2 people, no drinks, because, I don't drink at all. So we're talking about almost $100. If I had dated somebody the night before, we're talking about another $200. So your money so much of your money can be going out of the door just on social engagement. Because if a person is trying to build themselves up, not only going to be dating, they're also going to be networking. That also costs money. So then again, is that how does a man that we talked about before, average salary in Atlanta is around 60K, how does he maintain that week in and week out? Because he's telling these women, if the man can't keep this up, he's not serious. But how do you keep it up with how much money? So do you just say, well, you know what, I disregard wealth building while I'm in this dating stage with the goal of marrying this person, and then once we get married, then I go back into wealth building because all my money is going out the door to date?
Okay. So here's my thoughts. And tell me, I can't wait to hear what your audience think.
Okay.
So my first thought is save, right? For everything that's important to me in my life, I save for it.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Before, it might be every man, I believe, is going to have a building phase. I know I had my building phase as a woman where it was just me head down. I was barely leaving my room. I was barely leaving the house. I was working. And during that phase, when you're not dating, make sure you put money in that dating account. Because when you meet a woman and you're like, assuming that you have good discernment, you're like, I really want to get to know this person more. Mm-hmm. You don't, in the beginning phase, in that first month or two, you don't want your finances to be the barrier, because there really is a time where a woman is going to want to be wined and dined. So that's one thing, right? But I don't think I don't think it has to be expensive, right? So number one, I would say save your money so that you can provide the experience that you want for the woman that you choose. You're going to want to do that. Now, if you don't have the money to do that because you haven't saved yet, look in the mirror. But in the meantime, while you're looking in the mirror and you're assessing like, okay, I really need to get my finances together. Again, it goes back to the effort and the intention. This is not somebody that you just met. Now home dates are okay. Home dates and dinner dates, like cooking dinners together at home, movie nights, where you snuggled up on the couch, those are okay now. Right. So where it's like I don't think it necessarily, when you're in this stage where you're a little bit more locked in, I don't think it always has to be, maybe 1 week you go out, 1 week you stay in, 1 week you at her place, 1 week you at your place. And again, this is a good time for y'all to start establishing your spots, right? So having your spots that you go to on a Friday night because they have their Friday night happy hour and karaoke. It really don't take all of this. It don't take all the money in the world to be thoughtful about your experiences with somebody. In the same way that you should be managing your own budget, being creative. It's like, okay, because I have my spots that I go to, to save money, since I'm always working. There are times where I just can't cook and I don't want to spend $50 on Grubhub. So I have my spot that I go to that I know the food is going to be good. It's not going to be expensive, blah, blah, blah. So I'll leave that there for now. Those are my thoughts about that.
And I appreciate that. And I really appreciate you saying, and I think this is something that a lot of men are worried about, right? So that's spoken to me, is that I want to show this woman that I'm very committed to dating her. I'm serious, right? So I start off at this certain level to try to show that intent, but being worried that once I create that expectation, I can't maintain it. And so that's something that I wanted to ask you, is that how do we set expectations in dating? If I say, hey, I got a certain amount of money saved up, I've done everything the right way, I'm starting off with these $250 dates to show you how serious I am about you. But do I create the expectation in the person I'm dating that it's going to always be like that? So then when I start talking about home dates, now they're saying, well, you just want to do Netflix and chill. But I'm like, no, I can't maintain a $5,000 a year dating budget. I just was doing that to show you that I'm serious and I want to seriously pursue you. But because of the way in which my budget is set up, I can't do $5,000 a year dating. And so how do we as men, or how would you suggest as men, we set the expectations that maybe we can't always date up here? We want to maybe show you that we're serious, but the date can't always be this major thing 4 times a month.
Mm-hmm. Variety is the spice of life.
Okay.
Don't get her into a pattern of $200 dates.
Okay.
$200 date once that month. And then some fun, nature dates, some fun at home dates, a fun dinner and a movie date. And then the next week, The next month, maybe you have another $200 day, maybe not. Maybe it's something that you do every other month, but it's something that she knows you're able to do, but it's something that she also knows that you don't do all the time, which I think is healthy. Like, I think that is a health, developing a pattern of, sometimes we do things that are special. And then sometimes we do things that are standard. I feel like that is a healthy balance to strike in a relationship. And I know that we're having this conversation, but what I will say is, at the end of the day, I truly believe that it is, where are you coming from, right? If you're coming from this place of worry and fear that I'm not going to be able to maintain it, versus I really want to show this person that I care about them, and like, you're also showing it because of the energy and the attention. Women love attention. Give us some attention. Send her that good morning text and that good night text and ask her how her day is doing. It really don't take a lot. It don't take a lot of money. Give her the attention that makes her feel valued, that makes her feel appreciated. And communication is key. Letting her know, I know I'm not able to do these $200 dates all the time, but I really want you to know how much you mean to me. That's like, hold the phone, like heart eyes, So I think, men, don't sell yourself short. Know that you have the power to generate the income that you desire, and, spend the time working on that. It's a matter of identifying the skills that you need to, and, it's not always a fun process. But I think it could be worth it. And then don't sell yourself short in the regard of like, who you are as a person is going to be enough for the right person.
Okay. And so something that I think you said is really important, that's something that a lot of men go through, is the worry. Believing that they can maintain the situation. Because of the expectations that they have to maintain it as a provider. For a lot of men, it is something that goes on in the back of their head, is, can I keep this going? Right? Mm-hmm. So maybe the way some women may worry about their beauty and maintaining that is the way maybe some men will worry about their financial ability. And so I just think it kind of goes with the package to where they've been kind of socialized that they have to stay at a certain level financially. And if they can't, then they're seen as maybe less than. And I think maybe that's where some of the stress comes from. Mm-hmm. And they're not always, I would say, convinced that the people around them won't look at them different if they don't have the ability to provide that same way.
So I'm going to just be real. I don't want to speak into a place that I feel gives men permission to underperform as it relates to their finances and their income, right? Make money, period. It's going to solve a lot of problems. But on the other hand, I don't want men to fall into the trap that money is all they are. There really is a balance that has to happen where, you have to listen, nobody got to tell me to make money. Nobody has to expect me to make money. I want to make money, and so having, knowing who you are and what you want. There's some women who is just like, all I want is love. That's not me. So there's some men who are like, I have a friend and she talked to me about her partner. She was telling me, he was just like, as long as we have each other. And she's like, I'm going to need you to go do this. So you have to set the tone, right? You have to set the tone for what you want the expectations and the guidelines to be in your relationship. If you want to have a relationship where you live a meager life and you have meager things and you are on cloud nine because of love, then you find a woman who is interested in that same type of existence. But most men want things just like everybody else. And so what I would say is, don't let your desire for achievement be connected to anybody else's expectations of you. You want to achieve because you want to achieve. And then in doing that, right, you're going to find a woman who has that same energy. So when she's looking at you expecting achievement, just know she's just mirroring back what you're putting out, because she knows that you want that achievement. Are you always where you want to be? Maybe, maybe not. But if the answer is not, it's it's not about worrying, or it's not about feeling less than. It's about, okay, now we activate the partnership. What we doing? What's the plan to get us to where we want to be? So don't be afraid of where you are. Be proactive about what it takes to get you to where you want to be. And then when you can get comfortable, like in who you are, right? Not being comfortable where you are, but getting comfortable in who you are, where you are, then it's a lot easier to begin to navigate through life unbothered, because now I'm not where I want to be, but I'm clear about where I'm going. And that's a whole different ball game. Men who have that groundedness, they interact with women differently because they know what they bring to the table, even if the table isn't set right now.
Appreciate it. That's a lot of good wisdom. So really quickly, and speaking of everything that we're talking about, I know you got a really good offer for the people that watch this particular channel going into the end of the year. Can you tell us about that offer real quick?
Yes, I have my budget bundle, my free budget bundle, and I ain't gonna lie, it look real girly, y'all. My typical audience is women. However, you remember we were just talking about being grounded in who you are. Like, It doesn't matter if it looks girly. It doesn't matter what the outside looks like. It's beautiful. But on the inside, it is incredibly, incredibly valuable. For men, especially, that mindset part, getting you grounded in who you are and what you're capable of, it is going to get you to believing in yourself, to believing in what's possible. And then that next part is going to translate so nicely into creating your budget and also speaking to your budget. As you said, okay, this is my dating budget, right? Then you can speak to people not from a place of protection, but just from a place of boundary, and also being creative, setting up your budget in a way where you can do the majority of the things that you want to do. And then finally, we get to that day planner, which, as I said before, is probably one of my favorite aspects because it is so overlooked. People think that budgeting is about numbers, dollars, and cents. Budgeting is not about that. Budgeting is about how do you live your daily life. That is what's going to determine what those numbers look like. And our day planner helps you get your life together. It has a tracker for your meals, a tracker for working out, drinking your water, because when your life is in chaos, your finances are in chaos too. So that is my offer. You can find it on my Instagram or on my Twitter at Godesté HQ. That's GODESTE HQ. You can find it over there. Click on the link in my bio and it'll take you straight to it. And I'm going to give you the link as well, Dave.
Definitely. I'll make sure I put the link in the description. Appreciate you coming through because you added a lot of really good, I'd say, insight, especially from a woman's perspective. We don't get a lot of that here. And I think it's really important for men to hear grounded women that are really authentic and are very passionate about what they're doing and to just get that perspective because that's something they often don't hear. And it's not coming from like an antagonistic standpoint. It's coming very much in the spirit of trying to help and build people up and put them in the best position to be successful. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come through.
Thank you so much for having me. And if there's one more thing I would say, like just to continue what you said, is that, for your audience, I hope when they listen to me that they do hear somebody who cares and that they do hear, somebody who isn't trying to create more discord with, picking out different parts of these conversations, but really trying to figure out how can men and women have financial health and harmony in their relationship. So that is the place that I'm coming from. I would love for you to go download my budget bundle so that you can begin to cultivate that in your finances.